Hello. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties a little bit. Switching over to the correct mic. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Gaming or Rollin' Solo with Game Face Killer. I love board games, and in this stream, I'm sort of solo playing a few things that have been adapted into from board game to video game form. And normally I've been checking out Lord of the Rings. I've been getting my butt kicked by the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. Decided to take a little bit of a break from that this week because something magical dropped on the Steam store this week into early access. So I was being a little mysterious so I could be a little bit of a surprise. Yep, you're right, Joe. It is. It is. So we're going to be taking a look at that tonight. Just kind of tooling around to show you a little bit of what is involved with it so far, and just show you a little bit about how it works and what it looks like so far, which I'm really impressed with so far what I'm seeing. Although I will say it does sound like the kind of development plan is longer. It's going to be pretty long as far as getting everything out that I'm looking forward to with this adaptation. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started up. Yes, Gloomhaven, probably one of the best board games I've ever played, is finally being adapted into digital form. And unlike Lord of the Rings adventure card game, it would appear that this game is going to be a direct adaptation, not a variation on the game itself, but actually a direct adaptation straight from the board game into digital form. In some ways, this will be really cool. I know that if you had been joining us for our table flipping game stream on weekends, we played the Kickstarter campaign of Gloomhaven, and it was difficult at times to run, even with Tabletop Simulator and all the extra things that were there to help us. It's quite a setup, and the physical game itself is definitely a lot of setup. But those people who are willing to put in the time and set it up and play it, it's well worth it. It has a huge amount of payoff. There are tons of characters, tons of leveling up. It's a giant role-playing sandbox with a great narrative, really cool things, lots of choices, and many weapons, items, everything that you could possibly want. So Flaming Fowl Studios is working with Asmodee Digital and creating the board game adaptation. Of course, they're working closely with the creator of Gloomhaven, Isaac Childres, and they are creating an amazing game. I've watched all the streams that have been available as they've been developing this, and I'm really excited to kind of take a look at this and kind of show you what is available in early access. As you can see, there's quite a few things that are going to be available eventually, but are locked at this point. The tutorial, the campaign, multiplayer, and then modding, which will be interesting to see what they're going to do with that. These things are all going to be developed as time goes on, but as of right now, they're not available. So the only thing that people can do is play in adventure mode, and even that's kind of limited in a little bit, in a few ways, and I'll show you how. Just to take a look really quickly, I know a lot of people are kind of interested in the menus. Just to go through those really quickly, there's really some video options. You can change the resolution. I'm kind of operating, hopefully it doesn't look too crazy, but I'm operating it in my normal 3400 by 1400 and then full screen. I'm turning off VSync as of right now, but there is an option to turn it on. You've got audio, you can change the music effects and master volume. There's controls, you can reallocate those if you want. Pretty easy to reset. But there is a full, you can basically move with the WASD keys, rotate the screen if you want, zoom in and out. You could basically, I'll show you, there's a lot of options as far as where you want to place the camera. And then you can also hit tab key to display anything you can interact with. and then also display cards that you have in your hand. Not a lot of options so far, but there's quite a bit. Now, if you haven't played Gloomhaven before and you decide, hey, this game sounds really awesome, I want to check it out, and you decide to get it, I think it's about $24. It's going to increase in cost between now and when it's released, and so it'll be more expensive the longer you wait. If you have never played Gloomhaven before, there's a pretty good summary of most of the major rules in the compendium. So when you go there, they kind of talk about what adventure mode is, which is the only mode that's available right now. There's different it basically provides an overview. Then you have a section on cards and how they work, how movement works, attacking, other abilities that are available on the cards. There's monster behavior, which is great for reviewing the monster AI. This is the most difficult part of the physical board game, is trying to figure out the monster AI at times. It can be a little confusing and very complicated at times, but it's thankfully in this version the game handles everything, and you don't have to worry about it. There's effects and conditions, elements, item explanation, how experience works, and then damage and exhaustion rules. I'm not going to go through those and obviously read those. It'd be very boring, but it is nice to know that even though there isn't a tutorial available, there is a rules reference in the compendium available, and I'm sure that will become more interactive and detailed as it gets closer to launch. And so those are really the only other menu options that are available besides the main game to check out. And of course, we're going to go ahead and get into that right now, right? Jump into adventure mode. So when you bring up adventure mode, you've got only a few options to check right now. Right now I have a party of 2 set up, and at the top you have the name of your group, the spell shields. As of right now, I couldn't figure out how to change the name. I would imagine that you'll have the ability to change the name later, but for right now, you aren't able to change the name. And as you can see, the figures here are very detailed, especially compared to the artwork from the physical board game. There is a good amount of artwork, and the artwork is beautiful. But here they kind of went into a little bit more detail and made things three-dimensionally, beautiful as far as art. There's kind of a cell shading in some areas, which is really cool. And of course, the backgrounds and dungeon terrain and everything like that had to all be created, because the physical board game only has map tiles. So there's a lot of really cool expanded artistic development that they've had here for this game. Whenever you're playing, you have a display with your party over here on the left of their stats and items and what cards they have available. You can always change cards in and out. Later on, when you level up, obviously, if you play the physical board game, you get different cards, and so you have to pick what you're going to take with you into battle, what items you're going to take. And then then they also have, of course, what level you are. Each of your characters levels up individually, but then there's a level that your group has as all together, and that's the level of basically it determines the level of the AI you're going up against, or the level of the monsters you're going up against. Well, Joe, not to be disheartened, there is Cragheart, but for right now, if you have the option of playing with these 2 characters, and then of course they display your gold, but you can always reset your party if you want to. If you get tired of playing them, you can reset your party, have them go back to being completely starting over. And of course, I'm not going to continue the campaign. I am going to go ahead and reset my party, but I don't want to do it just yet, because I want to see if I can. One thing that I was kind of curious about is whether or not you could have multiple parties. I didn't see the option for that, but maybe if I just change my party, maybe I can have 2 different parties, but we'll see. So when you first, I'm going to go ahead and see what happens when I change parties. So what's interesting is when you select to change your party, you can see that there are actually 4 different characters to choose from. Right now, this is the Spellweaver and the Brute, but of course, I could also play the Scoundrel and Cragheart. So there are four characters available. I guess you should say classes available to play. Um, and unfortunately, as you can see, when you first bring up the adventure mode, eventually there's going to be a 2-hero option, a 3-hero option, or a 4-hero option, but those are all... Oh, interesting. They're locked. That makes sense. Okay, that's really cool. I thought that was locked because they weren't available yet. They hadn't created, they needed to finish programming this, but apparently they're locked in adventure mode, and you have to start off playing with 2 heroes, and then in order to unlock 3 heroes, you have to defeat 4 bosses, and in order to unlock 4 heroes, you have to defeat 8 bosses. So that's cool. They want you to play a little bit with 2 heroes, and then you can eventually move on to more heroes. So, let's see. So I'm going to change the party. And I'm wondering what's going to happen if I get to keep my old party that I was kind of tooling around with earlier. Well, we'll see that later. But this is my new party, Venomstone. I do like the names of the parties, but you just can't change the name yourself. That might be something that is an element of playing in adventure mode, is you have to take the party, the duo name that they give you. Up here in the top, you see the current objective. I'm going after a bandit commander, and then below that they have high cultist and undead commander. I don't know if that's going to be, maybe the bandit commander is the first boss, and then there's a second boss and third boss. But that's pretty much it. There's a lot of really cool things to see. Oh, and this is the other thing. Up here, if you'll notice on the Scoundrel, if you buy early access, you have alternate versions of heroes. So this is the normal Scoundrel look, and then this is the upgraded look of the Scoundrel if you have early access skin, which is pretty cool. I think it's pretty awesome. So I'm going to use that, and Cragheart, because I haven't seen these guys yet. Yeah, Joe, I figured you like this new one. So we got a Scoundrel here in her new early access skin, and Cragheart. And I'm really excited about the idea of having different skins for the characters. It'd be really cool just to see a lot of variety out there in playing. I'm going to go ahead and start. When you start, you have the option of choosing normal difficulty, hard, or insane. It basically just means that there are less enemies, and heroes start with a little bit of an advantage because they have blessings in their modifier deck, and they have more health when they start. So I'm going to go ahead and play a game in normal. I'll probably play something in hard and insane eventually, but it'd be nice just to kind of be able to take a look at and show you guys what this looks like without too much stress, because this game can be very challenging. Welcome, mercenaries. While drinking at the Wayward Inn, you overhear snippets of conversation between 2 town militia. Apparently, a local bandit commander has come into possession of a number of heretical texts and has begun researching necromancy. So it looks like that's happening over here at the Ashen Bond Retreat, where the bandit commander is. I am well aware that magical research often requires a handy supply of gold, and after asking around, you discover the hideout's whereabouts. And of course, I'm interested in that gold in particular, right? So that's my goal, my objective. But obviously, I'm unprepared to assault his base. I need to level up, I need to gather items, money, and knowledge. So I'm going to leave my hometown of Wayward, and I'm going to head off to raid some local crypts in search of knowledge and better equipment. Sounds like a good idea. So whenever you start, you're going to be given 3 paths. You have an easy path, obviously green, a medium path, yellow, and a red path. Each of these paths is going to take you, it's not just one dungeon, there's actually several dungeons that you'll go. As you can see, the run length here for medium is 3 scenarios. Looks like, and then for the easy, and the same for hard. And for the easy scenario, there's just 2, or for the easy path, there's 2 scenarios. So I'll probably run into a dungeon on the way, and then the marches, which is the actual dungeon I'm going for. You'll have a reward of gold and XP, and then there are some items, as you can see down there. I can't highlight it with my cursor, but as you can see on the right, there's some items that you'll get along the way, and as a reward for completing the adventure. And so I've got to go. I think I'm going to start off with the marches just as a easier path. This wild, rugged land covers the area north of Demon's Gate and is characterized by wide open plains and hillsides. Hidden bogs have been known to claim a careless traveler, so watch your step. Let's see. This would also be a place where you could probably, now I only have 9 cards available as of right now, and that's all I use. So I don't have any extra cards left. I'm wondering what they'll do, because in the physical board game there are some cards that you have in addition to the 9 starting cards, and you can substitute those in whenever you want. But for now, it doesn't look like they're available. So it'll be interesting to see how they're going to do that. But maybe in adventure mode, you start off with a less amount of cards and you can get more as you go along. But so I'm just taking the cards I have with me. You'll notice that the Cragheart and the Scoundrel have different numbers of cards. Every hero has a different set of abilities, different strengths, different weaknesses, and different card levels, card numbers that they can take into battle with them. So I'm going to go ahead and start my journey to the march path. Just a little confirmation. And then you'll see the actual path start. I forgot to show you Wayward. In my hometown, there's a general store, and there's places where I can go and buy items. One thing that you'll notice about the items, not only you might not understand what the ability means, but one thing I want to point out is that, as you can see in the top right corner, there's a box with a little bit of a slash through it, like it's something being torn, and then the number 3. What that means in adventure mode is that there are items that you can buy that have a limited use. In the physical game, whenever you buy an item, it's pretty much available to you for the rest of the game, or until you want to sell it, it's available permanently. But in the adventure mode, you're going to get abilities and cards and items that are only available for a limited amount of time. I think the idea is that they want you to have something to build toward, and then they also want you to maybe have some more powerful items at the beginning that are better, but are only going to be available for really big moves. You can also sell items, which obviously I don't want to sell my Warhammer, my starting items. And so that's that shop, excuse me. There's also another store where I can buy items. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot available really in either store, but I think as I quest and as I get more money, there'll probably be more available. One other thing to point out is every character is going to have some starting items. Cragheart is starting with a Warhammer that can be used to stun during an attack. The Scoundrel has some Eagle Eye goggles, which gives her advantages on certain attacks when she chooses to use it. So that's pretty cool. And then that's pretty much it. I'm level 1, no experience, no gold. Got to get out there and earn some money. So I'm starting my path with the armory. I've heard rumors that this is where a group of bandits train their archers. Looks like I'm going to run into bandit guards and archers in this quest or encounter. And my goal is to kill all enemies. So I'm going to travel. Now, I believe why you see the little progress dot go down is because every once in a while there might be a random event that happens to you as you're traveling, and that usually involves some kind of choice to make. So I'm starting the adventure. Alright, so this is the main map, and as you can see, you use the WASD keys to move around, and you can zoom in really close. And then, of course, if you don't like the camera angle, you can twist it around left or right, rotate it around. You can also zoom out pretty much to, just like if you were playing the board game, to a top-down view, which is pretty cool. And of course you can see that I came in through this gate, probably busted it down. Crackheart is a bit of a blowhard. So we're starting here. We've got three bandit guards, yes, one over here, and then 2 bandit archers. You'll also see in the top right-hand corner there's a progress bar that will tell you how many enemies you killed, so you know approximately how close you are to the end of the dungeon. Most dungeons in Gloomhaven are 2 rooms or 3 rooms, maybe. They're not a lot. They're not very big, but the idea is that you get a lot of combat that you have to... you're still feeling pressure because you got to get out before you become exhausted. So the whole idea of this game is you're playing adventures. Obviously, you heard the story, and so you're probably wondering, well, how does this dungeon runner work differently than other dungeon runners that makes it so great? Well, in this game, everything you do is based on cards. You come into play with a set of cards in your hand. I believe Crackheart has 11 cards. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yes. And the Scoundrel, and you can switch back and forth between each character to look at their cards. The Scoundrel only has 9. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't run out of cards, because the minute that you run out of cards, your game is over, you're exhausted. And if both of your characters become exhausted, you lose that encounter and you have to replay the whole thing over again. So I don't want to lose the encounter. I got to keep my cards from being burned. In this game, they're called burned. In the physical board game, they're called lost. So I want to make sure I don't lose my cards, I don't get them burned for as long as possible. There are certain moves, as you hover over them, you can see each of the cards. There's a top section and a bottom section. There's also a big number in the middle in a circle, and that has to do with initiative. And so every card is completely unique. No one has the same card at all. No character in this game. And believe me, that's pretty amazing when you consider the fact that there are going to be like 40-some characters in this game. No character is alike as far as their abilities. Although some of them have, kind of similar abilities somewhat, like it might just be like a move 4 or something like that. But almost every card is completely different and unique. And then that is what's going to dictate all of your movement. That's what's going to dictate all of your combat and attacks and special abilities. Everything has to do with the cards. So those kind of dictate everything in this game. So what you're going to do is when it's your turn, obviously I'm controlling both of these heroes. What you're going to do is you're basically going to pick 2 cards. And that's what you're going to use for each round. Now each of these cards, you're going to use, when I pick the 2 cards, I'm going to do one ability that's on the bottom of one, and then one ability that's on the top of the other. So I have to do a bottom ability and a top ability. And so that means you're really missing out on the other ability. So if I pick a bottom ability, I can't do the top ability on the same card. And if I pick another card and I do the top ability, I can't do the bottom ability. So I really have to be careful in how I pick cards, because obviously I know I'm going to be missing out on some things. I'm going to have to decide which one I want to do on each card. The other thing I have to think about is the initiative number. The number in the middle is going to determine what order I go in combat. And how that's going to be determined is whatever card I pick as my first card, that's going to be my initiative number. So if I pick this 41 as my first card, that's going to be the first, that's going to be my initiative number. And if anyone picks a number below mine, including the enemies, because I don't know what their initiative is as of yet, if they pick a number lower than mine, then they get to go before me, and if they pick a number higher than mine, they have to go after me. So that's basically what you're doing. You're picking 2 cards every round for both characters. Then automatically you'll see the enemies randomly draw an ability card themselves that will have an initiative on it, and it will explain what they're doing that round. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then everybody goes in initiative order. And then after that round's done, you pick another 2 cards and you keep going. So let's see what I want to start with here. You'll notice that I'm 3 spaces away from the closest enemy. And here, hold down the tab key. As you can see in red, this is a trap. And as you can see when you hover over it, if anybody steps on that trap, it's going to do 2 damage. So I got to watch out for that. Over here, you've got some gold on the floor. If I move over to that space, I can pick up that gold. What do I want to do? Okay, I'll do Rumbling Advance. The reason why I'm going to do that is because that's going to let me move 2 spaces, and then after I finish moving, every adjacent ally and enemy is going to suffer a damage, and I'm going to infuse some life energy into the ground. So I'm going to just click on that, and that you'll see that automatically picks it, and up here my initiative is now set as 29 because that was the card I picked first. So what am I going to do? After I advance, I will do 1 damage, and you'll notice here's everybody's hit points, and they have a little meter stick that will drop whenever I do damage. So each one of these guys has 5. I think I'm going to move right by them and do a damage to each one of them by my movement card. And then I'm going... I don't want to do avalanche, even though I would get to attack 2 people. You'll see down here that there's a kind of burning card symbol. What that means is, if I use this ability, I will burn that card. And like I said, I want to try to keep my cards from getting burnt as much as possible. Huh, that's interesting. When I'm highlighting over these bottom cards, I'm having trouble seeing the abilities on them. Well, it doesn't look like there's anything that lets him... Let's see, massive boulder. Attack range 3. Okay, so what you want to do is, if I'm going to move up right next to these guys, I do not want to attack them with range attack because that'll give me what's called disadvantage. And if I attack range at disadvantage, then that means I'm not going to... it's going to be less likely that I'll hit them or that I'll do as much damage as I want to do. So maybe I will just use Crushing Grasp just to attack 1 guy. So you'll notice that my second card selected, both cards are highlighted now. That lets me know I picked both cards. And you might ask yourself, what happens if I want to... What happens if I pick Crushing Grasp first and I pick Rumbling Advance, but I want to be a 29 initiative and not 35? All you have to do is click on the number in the circle, and that'll change what you want as your initiative. So if you think about it, what's really cool is sometimes you want to go later in the turn because you want to see what the enemies are going to do, so you might pick the later initiative, but then sometimes you really need to go fast before the enemy goes, and so you pick the early initiative. So it's really easy. All you do is pick your cards, and then you just kind of, if the initiative's not what you want, then just click the number of the initiative you want. It's very easy to do. So once you pick your cards on your 1 character, you'll see there's a 2 out of 2 here. I picked them both, so I'll switch to Scoundrel. Now, the thing about the Scoundrel is she's got some really low cards, and I know that Cragheart is going 29. Normally, what's cool about the physical card board game is that you don't know for sure what everybody's initiative is. So this game is going to be a little bit harder in difficulty because you do get to know what your different heroes' initiative is. And so they purposefully made the AI a little bit harder as a result of that. So since he's going at 29, I want to see if I can go after him. So I'm going to go 33 because what I'd like to do is move after him when he's already there, because I have several abilities. Like if you see this backstab, I can actually attack and do more damage and gain XP if the target is adjacent to any allies. So you might be asking yourself, wait a second, how does the XP work in this game? Well, with this game, it's not like a normal RPG. You don't get XP for every guy you kill. You get XP for certain abilities on your cards. So you really have to be careful that you trigger as many abilities as you can that are going to give you XP. And actually I'm going to pick Flanking Strike because if I pick Backstab, that's a burn ability. So I'm going to keep my cards the way they are and not burn any cards right now because I'm early in the dungeon still. So this is just an attack 3, and then I get to attack for a +2, and I'm going to get an XP if he's adjacent to my ally. So this is why I want Cragheart to go first. So I'm going to go ahead and end selection. So see, both of them have picked 2 out of 2 cards. Now I can just end the selection. Now you'll see that the enemy has drawn their random card. The Bandit Guards have drawn a 15 initiative, so they are actually first, and it switches everybody's portrait in order. But the Bandit Guards are going first, and they're going to be shielding and then attacking where they are. Now this is actually great for me because the Bandit Guards are nowhere near any of my allies, any of my heroes, so they actually can't attack. So it's just a melee attack. That's all they do is melee attack. And because they just melee attack, they're not going to be nearby anybody. And you'll notice it doesn't say anything about movement. That means they don't actually move. They just attack where they are after they've shielded themselves. So they're going to be harder to hit, but their attack's just going to whiff in the air. And Bandit Archers are moving 1 and then attacking, and they do have range, so they can hit anybody 3 spaces away. But they're not going to go until after everyone. So let's kind of see what's going to happen here. You click continue to go on. So each of these guys has a cool animation for shielding themselves. And you also know that they're shielded because they have a little shield by their hit points. And if you hover over them, you can also see the ability card again, just as a reminder. But the hit point bar gives you a good indication of who's shielded and not. So the cards that I picked are over on my left now, because it's Cragheart's turn after the Bandit Guards. And this is a reminder that if you pick the top ability on one card, that means you have to do the bottom ability on the other. So it highlights the opposite of whatever you pick. The other thing that's really cool about the cards is, let's say that you don't want to use one of the abilities on one of the cards, you can always use a default melee attack of 2, which is this smaller ability here, or you can use a default move of 2 on the bottom. So if I don't want to do any abilities on the big part of the card, I can always do a smaller attack of 2 or a smaller movement of 2 on the bottom. So the trick is that these guys are going to be shielded. They're going to be harder to do damage to, but unfortunately, I can't really reach anybody else. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and do my original plan, which is to start off with a moving Cragheart, and then everybody that's adjacent to him is going to take a damage. So what I could do is I could click each movement space individually if I really want to micromanage my movement, or I could just click my ending hex, and you'll notice I can't select. There's an automatic limit of 2 spaces, because all I can do is move 2 spaces. So it's nice that it automatically shows you what your range of movement is, what your options are for movement if you pick this card. So what you're going to do is you're going to click, and then you can click a second time to confirm, or you can click confirm down on the bottom. Alright, so he just moved up here and did a damage to these guys. Stomped the ground. And so you'll see their hit points drop. Now you'll notice that the shield didn't cancel that. So if you just do a direct damage, then they just suffer damage. But if you're doing an attack, that's what the shield's going to come in. It's going to cancel something. And you'll notice the card is faded out now because I've used that. So my only option now, because I used the bottom of one card, I can just do my attack 3 and immobilize this guy, or I can just do a basic attack of 2. Obviously I'm going to go ahead and just do a bigger attack of 3. And you'll notice that there's a green circle here on the right now. What that means is, because I moved 2 and then infuse life, there is a green circle here, which means that life magic or life element is going to be available. But it's not available till after my turn's over. That's why it's just a circle right now. Just letting me know that it's coming. If I wanted to, I could use his Warhammer in order to stun him. But he's already gone this round, and I'm not too worried about that. I only can use this Warhammer one time in the whole dungeon, so I'm not going to use it just yet. Now, if I attack him and I immobilize him, what that means is next time it's his turn, he won't be able to move. He'll have to stay there. He can still attack, but he just can't move. Now, one thing that's going to happen that I wanted to talk to you about really quickly, or tell you about, is that if you hover over Cragheart, you'll see on the right here that he has a number of attack modifiers with little pips underneath them. What that does is, in the physical card game, when you attack someone, you draw from a small deck of cards, and it's called your modifier deck. Every modifier deck has a ×2 damage card, a +2 damage card, several +1s, several -1s, 1 -2, and then a complete miss card. And so what happens is you draw one of those cards, and that modifies the attack that you're about to do. So if I'm attacking for 3 damage and I draw a -1, that means my attack is going to be a 2. And then you also would subtract the shield that he's just put on, and that would mean that my attack is only at a 1. So it's possible you could get a whole variety of damages, and the modifier deck kind of adds a randomness to it. It's like rolling a die, except it's a deck. And what's really cool about the deck is that because you can look at the discards, you know what you've already drawn, and you can kind of predict after a while what you're probably going to draw. And the game translates that really well by these little pips. So you know below Cragheart, if you look at the little pips below each modifier number, you know how many are left in your modifier deck. Obviously, I haven't used any yet. I also have a couple extra ×2s. Hello, Logic. How's it going? I also have a few extra ×2. Normally I only have one, but I was blessed. So I had a couple extra added to my deck in adventure mode. So I'm going to go ahead and attack, and it'll go pretty quickly, but you'll be able to see I can choose either this bandit guard or this bandit guard. I'm going to go ahead and attack the upper one, because I'm going to have the scoundrel attack the lower one. So I'm attacking this bandit guard, and then you have to click a second time to confirm. Punches him. Now, unfortunately, it goes really fast, so you don't actually get to see what he drew. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I drew one of my -1s. So unfortunately, I only did 2 damage, and then with his shield, it only subtracted 1. So that's why he's only missing 1 damage here. But you'll see also there's a little immobilized symbol underneath him. And so he's also immobilized. So you'll notice both my cards are now grayed out, so I can go ahead and end his turn. So now, I'm going to use Scoundrel's move 3, and then at the end of that movement, he's going to poison an adjacent enemy. So this is really cool. So I'm going to have the Scoundrel move 3 here. Confirm that. And then at the end of the movement, you'll see that there's an option to poison someone who's adjacent to me, an enemy. So obviously I'm going to poison this guy. Poison. So you'll see he has a poison symbol underneath him. Poison is really cool because basically what it does now is this bandit guard is poisoned. Anytime anybody attacks him, no matter which hero, it will do 1 extra damage permanently. The only thing that can cancel poison is if he heals, then it'll take the poison off but not heal him. So that's also an additional benefit to poison, is it kind of cancels the next heal he might get. I'm hoping he won't be around for that. So this next card, my Flanking Strike, is going to attack 3, but it's going to be +2 because he's adjacent to one of my allies who's kind of distracting him, so I'm going to be able to do flank attack, and it's going to give me an XP. So I select him, and he's dead, because I must have drawn... What did I draw? Ooh, I drew a +1, so it basically did 6 damage. And he just didn't have enough hit points to withstand that, even with his shield. And you'll notice that when an enemy dies, they drop loot, they drop gold. And I believe that at the starting level, they only drop 2 gold. And as they level up, as you get higher levels, they'll drop more gold. So in the Scoundrel's turn. Now the archers are going to go... Ooh, he didn't do any damage. Oh, so he did 2 damage. So when you get damage, this is kind of interesting because I don't remember this being an option in the board game, but there's so many rules. Maybe it was an option the whole time and I just didn't know it. When you are damaged, you have the chance to burn one of your cards. Now, granted, remember I said earlier, burning cards is bad because it means that you aren't going to make it through the dungeon if all of your cards get burned. So burning a card is really stupid when you have hit points to take damage down on. And it's always easier to take damage because damage can be healed. There's different cards that can also heal you. Cragheart has some healing cards. So taking damage is usually the best bet because obviously if I have the hit points to spend, I should do that first. The other option is I can burn 2 cards that are in my discard pile. Now you'll notice I haven't played any... Well, no, I have played 2 cards that are in my discard pile, these 2 that I just played. But obviously burning 2 cards is even worse than burning 1 that's in my hand. So I'm going to take the damage. So I've just decreased in damage by 2. And I'm going to end the round. So we're not doing too badly considering the fact that I've killed 1 and they've only done 2 damage to me. So now we just start a new round again. I've got to pick 2 new cards. And you'll notice I don't have these cards available yet because they're discarded. So right now, discards aren't a big deal because they can come back into my hand. I just have to rest. I'm not going to do a rest just yet. I want to wait till all my cards are used up. And obviously, there's too many enemies out in this room. I've got to worry about them. So let's see. I don't want to use any burn abilities. I could use Unstable Upheaval just to give myself an early initiative and use a default attack or move action if I wanted to. I've got some healing I could do. I could heal myself. Ooh, I can destroy an adjacent obstacle. Now you'll notice this water fountain or whatever it is, I could destroy that, which would give me access to that space to be able to attack. I don't really see that as being useful right now with so many enemies on the board. I can attack 3. So I can attack, and you'll notice that there's 2 red hexes and the gray hex is me in the middle. So basically what I would be doing is I'd be attacking someone in front of me and someone behind me. I don't believe I can move anywhere where I could do that effectively, so... But it is an option. I can't always just attack 1 either in front of me or behind me. Seems like that might be the best bet. I know Dirt Tornado is good. Well, maybe I will use Dirt Tornado. So Dirt Tornado is an area of effect attack, and it does 1 damage, but it damages everything in this huge area, and so I could hit all of these guys up here. In addition, I will muddle them, which basically gives them a disadvantage. So if you remember, whenever you draw an attack, or whenever you do an attack, you draw a modifier card. Well, the enemies do that too, and when you muddle someone, that means their drawn cards is their attack modifier is actually at a disadvantage because they draw 2 cards and they have to pick the worst one. So muddling is great. And I will actually be able to increase the attack because as you can see here, there's a line that's kind of grayed out that says if I spend life magic, I can add 1 to the attack and give myself an experience. And if you'll notice, I did infuse life magic last round, so I can use that now. So I think I'm going to pick Dirt Tornado. Now obviously that put me right now at an 82 initiative. I'm going to pick something early. I think I'm going to pick Earthen Clod because that will allow me to heal myself. And you'll notice I picked it second. Right now my initiative is still 82, so I'm going to switch that to 38 by just clicking the number. And now I've picked Cragheart's cards. Alright, so what's the Scoundrel going to do? Well, she likes this money, so she's really wanting to jump up and take that money. And so I just have to move up to that hex. Ooh, single out. if I pick this card, I can attack 3, and then I gain +2 attack and gain XP if the target is adjacent to one of my allies. So it's kind of similar to the flanking strike. It's another great card to use when you have an enemy, one of your allies distracting an enemy. Now, I don't want her to have a high initiative, so I'm going to pick one of my low cards. I'm going to pick a low card because I really want to be able to have a low initiative. So I think I'll pick Backstab just to give myself low initiative. It does have the option of moving 6, but I'm not sure I'll use that movement. So I'm going to give myself a 6. So right now I'm going to go before Cragheart, and I don't know what the enemies are going to do until after I've picked my cards. So I'm finished picking. I'm going to go ahead and end my selection. So the archers are moving after the road, but before Cragheart. They're going to move and attack at range again, and then they're going to create a damage trap in front of them, which does 3 damage if you run into it, so that's not good. The bandit guards are not moving until after everybody else is done. They're going to be moving and attacking, so I might be able to finish off the guards. So the scoundrel goes first. She's obviously just going to move up here. I don't have to use the move 6. I could just use the move 2. So I could undo that and just use the basic move 2 if I want to. It doesn't really matter. It's not a burn ability, so it's okay. Now you'll notice when I move on to the gold, I haven't gotten it yet. So you might ask yourself, well, how come you don't just pick up the gold as soon as you move on it? Well, the reason is because according to the rules of the game, you have to end your turn on the gold to pick it up. So I won't pick it up until the end of my turn. That keeps you from being able to move to multiple hexes and get all the gold, and all your friends will get mad at you for stealing everything. Yeah, Dirt Tornado plus Stun Powder for the win. Yeah, it's a great card. Yeah, Logic, that sounds awesome. I love the idea of enhancing it with something like a curse. That'd be awesome. A cursed tornado. Okay, so I'm confirming the movement here. Oh, okay, so here's the one little quirk about this game I hope they fix. You'll notice that I can't click or confirm movement. And at first I couldn't figure out why that was. Well, that's because you need to skip the rest of your movement. So you'll notice I moved 6. I only moved 2 out of 6, and so you really have to cancel the rest of your movement to stop your movement, which is kind of weird. But it's just so that you don't accidentally stop movement when you meant to move more spaces than you are on right now. Okay, so I stopped my movement. Now I'm going to use my attack 3. It's going to get +2 and an XP because it's adjacent to one of my allies. Now what's really cool is when you hover over someone, you can actually see how much it's going to probably do if you draw 0. Like if you draw no modifier that helps you and nothing that hurts you, then the attack will probably do enough to kill this guy, because it's 5 damage, right? And he only has 3 hit points. So let's see. As long as I don't draw a miss, I'll kill him. I drew a -1, but I still killed him. So the numbers pop up pretty quickly, but you can see, you can kind of get used to the visuals and realize, okay, that's my modifier, and that was the damage that I did. So it goes fast, but you can actually get to the point where you can kind of see what you're drawing for your modifier. I would hope that at some point you can, let's see if I can, I can't change it in the options yet, but I'm hoping that eventually you can decrease the amount of time, or you can maybe replay and review what exactly the modifiers were on your turn, how much damage you did, the stats basically. So the scoundrel's done. You'll notice she'll pick up the gold now. Okay, so the first archer attacked the scoundrel and did nothing. The second is going to do 2 damage because obviously I don't want to burn cards. That's not an option until you're basically out of hit points. Alright. So I could heal first, and you'll notice that my heal is at a range 3, so I can heal myself, or I can heal the scoundrel. And I do have more hit points, so I probably will heal the scoundrel. So we'll just go ahead and do that right now. Ah, sweet, sweet healing. And it healed 2 hit points, and the beautiful thing is that now she's back up to normal. Crackheart's still missing 2 hit points, but I'll be able to rest and get that heal card back, and then be able to heal myself later on. Alright, so big dirt tornado time. So what you want to do is, if you are planning on using the an element, and you'll see there's an option to use an element whenever you see the element symbol and then a down arrow by it. So there's an option to use the element that's on the that I generated last round. To do that, you just select that, and then that lets you know, yes, I'm going to use that element, and you'll notice it disappeared over here on the right. So that lets you know that you're using it. You can always deselect it if you change your mind. But now I'm going to use this, which increases the attack to 2, and gives me an XP, and then it's going to muddle everybody in the area. Fantastic ability, especially when you can supercharge it like this. So I'll go ahead and select it. Now you'll notice what you have to do at this point is you're going to select the area where the attack is going to happen. So you'll notice that I only have a range of 2, so there, you can see I can't select it like clear over on the right here. But as I move it around, you'll see I'm starting to highlight some guys. I think the most that I can highlight are these 2 guys right here. So that's the best bet. So both of these guys are going to get hit for 2 damage, and you can see that's already estimating to take off half their hit points. In addition, it's going to muddle them, which will make, like I said, give them a disadvantage on their next attack. And it's going to give me an XP, so we'll go ahead and confirm that. You have to actually select that for some reason. Oh no, I can just... Wow. Okay, so what did I draw? I drew my +2. So I just did 4 damage, which was exactly how much their hit points were, and killed them both. So that was a great end to this room. You'll notice that there are several traps out, so I got to be careful of those, but I definitely can go around and pick up this gold, which is good because that lets me buy items, which lets me improve my characters. So it's pretty cool. Yes, I agree. Logic, I've been talking about that. I don't like that it goes so quickly with the modifier step. I know it might get tedious to have it last longer, but it would be awesome if you could see or have a replay button that you could hover over. So yeah, I totally agree with that. I think they should add that. So if you're listening, yeah, it would be nice to know. That way you could tell if there's a bug going on. But what I've been doing so far is just looking at the pips and seeing which ones have disappeared. But as you know, I'm not going to remember all the different which pips have been taken and which ones haven't. It's going to be hard to remember without a little bit of a somewhere you can hover to see a replay. That'd be nice. All right, so the bandit guard is going to go, and I can hover over him to see what he's going to do. He's going to move 2 and then attack 2, but I don't think he's going to be able to move far enough to get to me. Yeah. So he is out of range. So this is kind of nice because I kind of have control of this room at this point. I do have some range attacks with both characters, so I could... He's going to have to hustle to get nearby me. And there's some traps up here to kind of block him from moving to the north. So I think I'm going to try to go early and run up to the north and maybe do some range attacks while I'm collecting this loot. So let's do Crater, which is an attack 3, range 3. That's going to give me a high initiative though, so I might want to pick something lower, obviously. So I'm going to pick Unstable Upheaval, so I have a low initiative. So I'm going to switch my initiative to 13. Now, I'm not